guys, welcome back to the channel. So a few, actually months back now, not even weeks, months, we had a new prototype shaft turn up at TXG build shop.
That's right.
The Diamana TB, the 5th generation Diamana Blueboard, Matty boy.
Lovely.
Legendary shaft line, dates back to the early 2000s, famously played by Tiger and his fairway woods. Many tour players played that original Blueboard design.
Yep.
Was, and certainly my timeline as a club fitter, golfer, someone in the industry.
Me too. I remember it being in the Nike Sasquatch. I had one. It was
truly
like
a classic.
It was the thing.
Truly a classic, and actually something that I think many current shaft lines have learned from the success from.
Do you think it's the kind of feel profile that people have become attached to? I remember when I knew nothing about shafts, but I wanted that one in my driver.
Yeah.
Because everyone was saying, one, high launch, low spin, whatever.
Yeah.
But mostly the feel of it is so nice. It feels stable, but you get enough kind of flex in the midsection. You actually have some feel with the shot. And that's what I remember everyone saying was the appeal of it. It's
always been the signature of that shaft. It is by historically been a stiff, soft, stiff design.
Right.
In 5 generations, that flow has varied ever so slightly.
With that amount of time gone by, there's been 5 generations, obviously. This specific generation, what are we looking at in terms of improvement? Like, what did they do 4 versus 5?
So I think with 4, people really liked 4. It was played by Justin Thomas, very kind of popular based on how he played it. But I think what this lineup of the 21 SKUs that it's available in, I think what we're seeing now is there's tighter tolerances, less variance than ever before. So in that shaft design, if you have a 40, say you have a 40 R2 and an 80 TX, the difference in taper rate, butt diameter, all those slight variances is less than ever before. So if you go through that lineup, you're not really going from a 50 gram into a 60 gram, and the shaft profile has really changed. That can happen quite a lot.
It seems like most companies do that.
Definitely they do.
Because this is such a legendary thing, I think you've picked out 2 that make sense to compare. Ventus Blue you've already mentioned, but RDX Blue, what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, a few weeks back,
We were super impressed with that. I think we might have said something about Blueboard in that video.
Yeah.
I feel like we did.
That's right. In Velocore and Hexcel were 2 comparisons were made between the RDX and the Ventus. And obviously from a material standpoint, when you start talking about things like Velocore and Hexcel, you can't talk materials without talking Mitsubishi. They are the only company in golf that literally make every single ingredient that goes into a shaft. From the carbon, the resin, all the ingredients, every single one comes from in-house.
Which is pretty unique. No outsourcing at all.
When you control the chemistry, you truly are in control. You're not outsourcing that. You're not at the disposal of other companies who may have tolerances in the sort of ingredients that they produce.
Very true. Yep. I think that gives you a lot of confidence as a buyer.
Definitely.
You're spending a lot of money. Let's be honest, this thing is like $500 Canadian.
It's in the high end. It always has been. It always will be. It's a real premium part.
But that's what you're paying for.
That's exactly
what consistency is. And I think as a buyer, that will probably be worthwhile for a lot of people because you can keep it for a long period of time and you're confident in the way it was built.
Definitely.
Works. Shaft good.
The benchmark bunker. If you can fly the benchmark bunker, you are a good combination.
Yeah, it's very true.
So right out the gates, you've given me 16 launch and 2100.
That's crazy.
The mythical high launch, low spin exists.
I know, and I was saying it jokingly when I said I had a Blueboard like 15 years ago, because everyone said high launch, low spin.
Yeah.
It did do it.
It did do it, and this does do it, and this is exactly why I believe this shaft will be a monster when paired up with the right fast low spin head, because it will initiate some significant launch in there.
That's similar, hit
Sailing past benchmark bunker one more time. That's an identical drive.
Pretty much. The only difference is maybe just the strike height. So it
sounded a little pitchy.
It was hit worse technically, but I think I got away with, I did. I got away with the launch and spin. Tried to hit one a little more neutral that time. I was getting a little kind of loopy. That's nice.
Nice to see that even when you caught that, I'm going to say probably heel side.
Yep, a little bit.
Yeah, little heel side. You didn't get a crazy amount of spin. Sounded like that one was crushed.
That's better.
Beauty.
That's
Absolute
lovely.
beauty. Yeah, it's so friendly.
So friendly.
So friendly to the point where it actually would offer you a little bit more ball speed if you went down and loft a little bit.
Probably could, yeah.
You could. You definitely could.
Good start.
Lovely start.
You can definitely feel the slightly different profile. It just, as you said, it's just the waggle test even you can feel. Okay. Those first couple feel almost the same as what I did with Blueboard. Pretty good swings. They're a little high in the face and slightly toe side. I'll try to adjust a bit. That's a good flight though.
Yeah.
That's good. Ball flight looks very similar when you strike them.
Yeah, it does,
in the same
doesn't
spot,
it?
doesn't it? I feel like those numbers are pretty damn close.
It looks like the best flight of any of them today.
Agree. Yep. There's nothing I would change about that. Yeah.
That was
That's perfect.
perfection.
Yep.
13, 21, 48, 175. Oh,
Definitely a bit more in my personal wheelhouse.
interesting. And those are starting to really hum now.
I kind of feel like, yeah, if I had a session with this shaft, I could probably continue ramping up a bit. I just feel a little bit more confident on the strike with it.
All right, our old pal Ventus Blue.
So you expect it to be feel and stability-wise somewhere in between the two shafts?
Yes, feel definitely somewhere between them. I'm sure RDX felt very stable.
Definitely.
Felt like it was right there with you. No kind of flopping around down there.
A lot less loading and unloading.
Yeah.
I think if someone wants to feel the shaft moving, the TB was definitely better. I felt the TB at the top of the swing loading up. I felt it better through the swing. So I think a more rhythmic person, someone who's a bit more deliberate in their pace, their tempo, might, I would say, likely prefer that.
Right. Okay.
That sounded terrible.
It's got a heck of a clunk off the top of the head, this, isn't it? And that wouldn't have been that high.
No, it really sounded awful, but it's fine. Actually, really quite a good drive.
Like, that's lowering the head for sure. Probably spun a bit more,
Get going.
but it's probably 174, 175 maybe.
Yeah, good guess. That's a nice one there.
175 spin, yep. Just a slightly lower part of the head. That sounded a combination of the first two.
Agreed.
Certainly lowering the head, but that's nice.
This is feeling nice, this Ventus. I think you're spot on. Ventus has more activity to it than RDX.
Then RDX, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a ton more. Oh, it's fast. Yeah, I kind of feel like Ventus is taking off online. I don't know that I'm striking it as well as RDX. I think I struck RDX a little bit more in the center. This is going a bit high in the face for me, which isn't bad. It's still very good.
Yeah, really nice.
Very nice. This one.
I mean, that's a pretty low maintenance set, this, isn't it?
It has been. I could probably play any of the three. The TB, maybe I would just ask you to tip it a bit, maybe?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Pure hit and tip it in the 60TX version. Aside from that, I think it was really good.
So the RDX, from a standard deviation standpoint, was the clear winner.
Okay.
You know, spin was very consistent.
Yep.
You know, the blue was in a slightly better flight window for me. But again, I might change my mind if we were to hit that TB in a 9-degree head rather than a 10.5.
It's a good point, because I think that makes it more, it's like when we talk about autoflex. Don't just put autoflex in something for no reason. TB would be like any shaft, don't just throw it in there.
Yep.
That gives you way more launch, for me anyway.
Yep.
So why wouldn't you go down the loft, hit high launch, low spin? It is high launch, low spin as long as you adjust the head.
Pair it up with the right head to bring that out of it.
Yeah.
You know, I really do think if we put that 9 degree on there, we could probably gain 6 or 7 yards and pick up a little speed and drop that launch a little bit, bring that 137 foot apex down to probably about 118, 175 average ball speed. We'll probably start flying that, you know, pretty much 320 pretty consistently with the TB.
Do you want to hit like 2 with it?
Sure, yeah.
Let's cap off with that.
Yeah.
So back to the TB, down to 9 degree, but you went with the max, which I think is a great idea.
Went with the max just because we were straying a little high in the head, and the fact it's got a slightly deeper head, it will be in the heart of the club a little bit more.
I love that. That's nice.
That's really nice.
I like everything about that.
Little flatter there, eh?
Whoa, it's fast as hell. What? Dude, where is that coming? That did not feel like that.
So there is the exclamation point. So if we go to that the first version, bringing that launch down but keeping the spin. So that's an indication of a strike probably 3 or 4 millimeters below the center.
That's what it felt like.
So you get a little downward tilt, that's what changes the launch. You get the spin pretty stable on these drivers. We've kind of got the same readout in terms of the carry and the total, but it's at a much more acceptable height.
That feels nice.
That's a perfect example. So change of head changes the perception of the profile of the shaft.
Dude, this is nuts. I can't explain to you how smooth that felt for 178. That did not feel like that whatsoever.
So
There's so much efficiency.
Yeah. So good.
That's ridiculous. That's just beyond.
Stay on that line.
How could you? How could you do this to me? So much speed.
So we maybe have slightly fallen over the line into kind of, you know, the slightly flatter, but it just goes to show fitters, people being fitted, don't think a shaft is a one-dimensional part.
True.
It's really not. It just depends what it's paired with. The first flight was at 137 feet. We've now went into 1.5 less degrees aloft, and it's came down by 50 feet.
That's crazy. The ball flight would look nothing alike.
You would literally think everything's changed. It's just changing a couple of those variables can change the flight. Let's see where the strike point is. It's kind of on the same altitude, but the delivered loft is very, very similar. Sorry, very different. The strike height is very similar.
Yeah.
The efficiencies went way up.
Wow.
Way up.
So really for me, it actually is quite a good shaft, but initially wasn't in the best head for me. And loft.
Yeah.
So less loft and a slightly different head, but different CG location, and that is producing, I would say that shaft and head are producing about as much output as anything. Probably the most bang for my buck that I've ever seen with a few swings is 1.45.
With great launch conditions, nice and flat. I mean, you can draw a straighter line than that. And that literally sailed down that white line the whole way. I mean, it's
That's
just
what I liked about
line.
this shaft and the other ones. They felt like the face angle, so face control has felt good with them. I may not have had the best control of strike height at times, but that's more my swing. But all of them seem to come back to square quite nicely.
A contender for Matty Boy for 2021. It's just a case of what head is it going to be on there.
I do think we'll see this in the bracket, this old Diamana.
It's got our attention.
You're going to see the other ones in there too.
I know.
You are.
I think there'll be different times you'll enjoy one shaft over the other based on what head is in it.
Yes.
And I think the head, you'll enjoy certain heads over the other depending on what shaft is in it.
That is exactly what happens.
You can't have one without the other.
No.
It's interesting stuff. Okay, guys, again, another little sort of insight into what it's like when you do change these things. Again, we were talking about this being a kind of high launch shaft, something that will really give you flight. Well, we changed one thing. We changed two things. We changed the loft and we changed the CG location. We brought it the CG up a little bit on the deeper head on the Sim Max versus the very low profile and very low CG, forward CG on the Sim. So that high strike was sounding really mishit to us. And also it was giving us some big dips in ball speed. As soon as we went to sim, max formatted, ball speed skyrocketed, and it retained it, which was the absolute key to managing that strike location.
Oh, so true.
It's very important.
Hopefully, next generation of sim, the standard model is kind of a little bit closer to the max, and I only mean that in terms of like the strike height forgiveness.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be a great improvement, because to be honest, aside from that, the driver is basically solid. There's no other weaknesses that I can think of.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I feel like being a brand agnostic company, being a company that has, 50 different drivers in the drawers rather than, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
If you go to a manufacturer, they've got 3 or 4 of that year's crop.
True.
We have ones that now cater to the low strike. We have ones that cater to the high strike.
So true.
Toy, Healy, wherever it may be, you've kind of got something up your sleeve for any player that walks through the door. So
absolutely,
that's the benefit, having the ability to interchange these heads and shafts.
No, I totally agree.
Great stuff. Well, a shaft review video that turned into a little bit more than that. Hopefully you were able to see a little bit about how it's never just one thing. It's never the head that's the magic. It's never the shaft. It's how they combine, the synergy between the two. That's the truly important thing here. This is a great option though. I think Diamana continue to produce incredible products. Mitsubishi, the parent company, continue to produce phenomenal results. And really expect to see a white board and red board.
That would be great.
Sibling.
I can't wait. If there's a white version of this, I would love to try that.
Nice, eh?
Yeah. No, awesome.
All right. Stay tuned for that. We may see it in 2021. Guys, we'll be back soon. See you again.